Geoff Meggs here early Tuesday morning. You were quite involved in kind of the research with wild fishery, and talk a bit about that for us.
Well, many years ago I worked for the Fishermen's Union, and we were very worried when the first fish farms arrived in BC. They were fleeing tighter regulations in Norway, and the government of the day, the Van government, basically imposed no regulations here, so there was a rush to stake sites for fish farms, and took a lot of research to determine what was going on with the farming industry in Norway. We led a delegation to Norway to see what was happening there and became very convinced that fish farming would be harmful to the wild salmon, and unfortunately we were right.
So what are your thoughts now with the discovery of the ISA and the fact that the federal government seems to be downplaying it?
Well, I was very discouraged and upset to learn that ISA had arrived in Canada, but not surprised, because the transfer of Atlantic salmon to British Columbia was intended to overcome all the costs of domesticating coho and chinook. When they tried to domesticate coho and chinook, they found they couldn't do so, and Atlantic salmon had already been largely domesticated. So it was really like buying Holsteins and bringing them here, and along with them came everything that was problematic in North Atlantic fish, including ISA. It was an obvious risk they were taking. In Norway, they won't even move eggs from one watershed to another, never mind across the ocean like this. But we've never insisted on similar standards here.
What did, in the East Coast cod fishery, after that collapse, the oil rigs move in, do you kind of see that same linkage with the two industries?
Well, the rise of the salmon farming industry served a purpose, whether this was intended or not. I think it was, but it served the purpose of providing salmon for wealthy consumers without requiring salmon habitat. So at a time when wild salmon were causing the delay of hydroelectric development, they were in protection of fish habitat was forcing restrictions on mining and things like that. There was a huge push to create fish or generate fish in some artificial way through ocean ranching or through salmon farming. And salmon farming eliminates the need for salmon habitat, so it's available for other purposes, and that's exactly what's happened. So we've seen the massive, in my view, subsidization of the salmon farming sector through all kinds of methods. As a result, the wild fishery has been crushed, and the wild markets have been destroyed. They've been totally replaced with farmed salmon. And that means that it's very, very difficult to make an economic argument to protect salmon habitat. You have to make an ethical and moral argument, which we should always make anyway. But it's much easier to say, well, if there's an industry here and people are living from this resource and it's a sustainable resource, then it's much easier to make the economic argument. But consider that a wild salmon, properly managed, will go out to the North Atlantic, harvest at the bottom of the food chain, and return on its own to be sustainably managed, we hope, and properly harvested. And compare that to a farmed salmon, which has to consume food that is made off, in many cases, from other fish. The food is transferred, using ships halfway around the world in some cases. Then it's raised and slaughtered again. I mean, it's really the most cumbersome possible way to get a beautiful fish is salmon farming, but that's what we're focusing on.